Let's break it down straight from the hill to your hometown. No spin, no hype, just facts we find. AI's on the case, no truth left behind. Laws are written, deals are made. Who's got your back, who's throwing shade? We cut through the noise, decode the text, keeping it real. Congress in context, Congress in context, shining the light, breaking it down so you know what's right. Policies, votes, who's working for you? We bring the facts, the power is you.
All right, let's jump right in. We're taking a deep dive into the Congressional Record from February 13th, 2025.
Think of it like
This is like a snapshot.
a snapshot of a day in the life of our government.
Exactly. We've got a really interesting mess of sources today.
We do, yeah.
Bills, speeches, even personal tributes.
It's a fascinating look at how our democracy actually works. From the heartwarming to the very controversial.
Absolutely. And, I'm a sucker for the human interest stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So let's start with those moments where Congress took time to recognize some truly remarkable individuals.
Yeah, it's interesting how these moments of recognition are woven into the official record.
Right.
For instance, we see Representative Hurd from Colorado honoring Rick Dunlap,
Oh, yeah.
a Vietnam War veteran, Bronze Star recipient, and dedicated sheriff.
Wow. His story is incredible.
It is.
Rising from poverty to serving his country and community.
Mm-hmm.
I found myself wanting to know more about his life, like beyond these highlights.
Yeah.
It's just a reminder that these records, they reflect real people
Absolutely.
and legacies.
They do.
But then we swing over to a totally different tone.
Yeah.
With the Agent Raul Gonzalez Officer Safety Act,
Right.
H.R. 35, for those keeping track at home.
Exactly.
And this bill aimed to criminalize evading law enforcement near the border
Mm-hmm.
with a focus on deporting non-citizens.
This one really sparked a debate.
Yeah, wow, it really highlights
Absolutely.
the deep divisions we see
Yeah.
on immigration policy.
Absolutely.
Supporters argued that it was all about protecting law enforcement and communities from dangerous high-speed chases.
They did.
And they even shared some gripping firsthand accounts of these incidents,
It did.
Like, it makes it clear why this issue
Right.
resonated with them.
It does.
But opponents pushed back hard,
Mm-hmm.
arguing it was a dangerous expansion of power targeting immigrants,
Yes.
potentially opening the door to racial profiling and eroding due process.
Mm-hmm. And they also pointed out that we already have laws
Right.
on the books addressing this issue.
Right.
So they questioned the need for a new bill.
And here's where the legal details get really interesting, because the bill itself lacked a clear definition of fleeing,
Mm-hmm.
which left some representatives, like
Yes.
Mr. Raskin, worried about unintended consequences.
Yes.
He even raised the scenario of someone being prosecuted for simply driving away from an unmarked vehicle,
Right.
not even realizing it was law enforcement.
Exactly. That vagueness is a key point of contention.
Yeah, it really highlights the importance of precise language,
It does.
especially in laws that could have such a significant impact on people's lives.
Yes, absolutely.
It's a great example of how those seemingly small details in a bill
Mm-hmm.
can become major points of debate,
Yes.
revealing underlying concerns about potential overreach or
Right.
unintended consequences.
Exactly.
And speaking of heated debates, this next topic is a doozy.
This is a big one.
We see multiple representatives expressing serious concerns about Elon Musk's influence on government policy.
Yes.
And it wasn't just about his wealth,
Right.
but how he's allegedly wielding it,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
impacting funding for research, agencies,
Yeah.
programs, without going through the usual channels of congressional approval.
Exactly.
Yeah, one representative even went so far as to call it a great billionaire takeover,
Wow.
which paints quite a dramatic picture.
It does.
They specifically pointed to potential conflicts of interest with Musk's government contracts, particularly his $11.8 billion
Right.
deal with NASA.
It really raises the question of, how much influence should individuals with massive wealth have on policy decisions?
Yeah,
It's a complex issue
it is.
with no easy answers, and we're seeing it play out in real time with figures like Elon Musk.
It definitely sparked my curiosity. Like, what did supporters of Musk have to say?
That's a great question.
Was there anyone defending his actions, offering a counterargument to these concerns about a takeover?
Yeah, it speaks to the need for balanced perspectives, even when
Absolutely.
a particular viewpoint is presented very forcefully.
For sure. Okay.
Shifting gears
Shifting gears now
to a topic that hits close to home.
to energy security.
Yeah, the picture painted by representatives was pretty bleak.
Yeah.
They highlighted the fragile state of the U.S. power grid, warning of a looming risk of blackouts.
Right.
This is clearly a major concern for them.
It seems like there's a real tension between maintaining reliable power sources
Yes.
and transitioning to renewable energy.
Absolutely.
Some representatives were worried about shutting down coal, natural gas, and nuclear plants too quickly, arguing it could make those power shortages even worse.
It's a classic balancing act.
Yeah.
Making sure we have enough energy today,
Right.
while also investing in a more sustainable future.
Right. The decisions made here will impact everyone,
They will.
affecting everything from energy costs to environmental policies.
It really makes you wonder, how are these representatives weighing those trade-offs?
Yeah.
What factors are they prioritizing, and
Yeah.
how are they justifying their positions to their constituents?
It's a crucial question.
It is.
Now, in addition to these high-profile issues, we also get a glimpse of the sheer variety of topics
We do.
Congress tackles on a daily basis.
Yeah.
It's almost overwhelming.
It's like a legislative buffet.
It is.
Right. We see everything from debates about repealing the estate tax
Right.
to defining anti-Semitism
Yeah.
to raising the minimum age to buy assault weapons.
Yeah.
Each of these bills reflects
Yeah.
a different facet of American society and the challenges we're facing.
For example, with the estate tax,
Mm-hmm.
it's fascinating to see the arguments about its impact on family farms.
Yes.
Some argue it can make it incredibly difficult to keep a farm within a family,
Right.
potentially leading to the loss of generational livelihoods.
Absolutely.
Others say it's a necessary measure to ensure fairness in how wealth is passed down, preventing excessive concentration of wealth in the hands of a few.
It's a classic example of how even seemingly dry policy debates
Absolutely.
can have very real consequences for people's lives and livelihoods.
And I think it's important to remind our listeners
Yeah.
that many might not be familiar with the estate tax.
Mm-hmm.
Essentially, it's a tax on the transfer of property
Right.
after someone's death.
Exactly.
The debate revolves around how high this tax should be and who it should apply to.
Right. And understanding the mechanics of these policies
Yeah.
is essential for engaging in informed discussions about
Absolutely.
them.
And speaking of engaging in discussions, let's talk about that bill defining anti-Semitism.
Okay.
It really reflects how societal tensions and anxieties find their way into legislation.
It raises questions about how we define and address hate speech in a society that values free speech.
Right.
It's a complex issue
It is.
with no easy answers, and we see it reflected in the Congressional Record as lawmakers grapple with these sensitive topics.
And of course, the gun control debate is always a hot-button issue.
Yes.
Seeing a bill proposing to raise the minimum age to purchase assault weapons to 21 is a stark reminder of how this issue continues to divide the nation.
It reflects the deep-seated cultural and political differences surrounding gun ownership in America.
Yeah.
The Congressional Record gives us a glimpse into how these differences play out in the legislative arena.
These examples really drive home the point that the Congressional Record isn't just some dry, dusty document.
It's not.
It's a living record of the issues facing our nation
It is.
and the passionate debates they spark.
Right.
It's where we see our values, our anxieties, and our hopes for the future reflected in the actions of our elected representatives.
It's a reminder that the decisions made in these chambers have real-world consequences for all of us.
Exactly. And that brings us to the question,
Okay.
how do these congressional happenings affect you, the listener?
Good question.
Let's explore that in our next segment.
Let's do it. So let's start with that border security bill, H.R. 35.
Okay.
Imagine living in a border community.
Mm-hmm.
If this bill becomes law, it could change how you interact with law enforcement.
Right.
Whether you're a resident, someone just passing through, or even a Border Patrol agent.
Right. And the potential for unintended consequences is huge.
It is.
Right.
Yeah.
We talked about that vague language, like what exactly constitutes fleeing. Could someone end up facing serious legal trouble for a simple misunderstanding?
Yeah, and that ties into those concerns about Elon Musk's influence.
Right.
So this isn't just about one billionaire.
Right.
It's about the very structure of our government.
Right.
Do we want decisions made through elected representatives
Right.
or powerful individuals operating with less accountability?
It's almost like two different visions of how power should work
It is.
in a democracy.
Yeah.
It made me think, if those concerns about a billionaire takeover are valid,
Mm-hmm.
what are the checks and balances in place
Right.
to prevent it?
What?
What recourse does Congress have
Right.
if they believe someone is bypassing their authority?
Right.
These are the questions we need to ask.
Yeah.
And on a more personal level, think about that energy security debate.
Mm-hmm.
Those decisions could determine whether you're paying higher energy bills,
Right.
facing rolling blackout,
Oh, yeah.
or maybe even reaping the benefits of a
That's-
clean energy revolution.
It's the kind of thing that feels abstract until it hits your wallet
It
or
does.
disrupts your daily life.
Mm-hmm.
And we saw other bills that might seem distant,
Right.
but could have very real impacts.
They could.
Imagine inheriting a family farm.
Okay.
The debate around the estate tax, that tax on inherited property,
Mm-hmm.
could determine whether you can keep that farm in the family.
Or are forced to sell it.
And the bill defining anti-Semitism, while well-intentioned,
Mm-hmm.
raises questions about free speech and censorship.
Yeah.
Where do we draw the line? These are societal dilemmas playing out
Right.
in the legislative arena.
It's a lot to process.
It is.
But I think that's the point of this deep dive.
Mm-hmm.
The Congressional Record isn't just for political junkies. It's a window into decisions that shape our lives.
Absolutely. But remember, this is just a snapshot
Right.
of a single day,
Yeah.
February 13th, 2025.
Right.
And it wasn't all policy battles and doom and gloom scenarios.
Right.
We also saw moments of humanity woven into the official record.
You're right. It's easy to get lost in the big debates.
It is.
But Congress also took time to honor individuals who made a difference,
They did.
like Bobby Tyner, a former Army engineer and advocate for veterans affected by Agent Orange.
He was remembered for his service to his country and his unwavering compassion
Yeah.
for others.
And Dr. Joseph Bernal, a veteran, educator, and pillar of the San Antonio community.
Mm-hmm.
His life story, from growing up during the Great Depression to championing educational equity, is truly inspiring.
It is.
It reminds us that the pursuit of justice and equality is a long and winding road,
Mm-hmm.
often paved by individuals who dedicate their lives to those ideals.
And let's not forget the lighter moments.
Right.
The recognition of Paul Gallo,
Oh, yeah?
the beloved host of The Paul Gallo Show.
He was celebrated for his decades-long career as a voice for news and opinion in Mississippi.
Mm-hmm.
His commitment to holding leaders accountable, and his tireless advocacy for children.
It's a nice reminder that even amidst the seriousness of government,
Right.
there's room for celebrating the lives of those who brought joy
Right.
and made a difference in their communities.
These tributes highlight the values that shape our political leaders
Mm-hmm.
and the communities they represent.
Yes.
Even in the midst of partisan battles,
Yeah.
there's space for compassion, respect, and shared purpose.
Those stories, those personal anecdotes really stood out to me. It's
Yeah.
like you're reading through pages of dry legalese,
Mm-hmm.
and then suddenly there's a human face,
Right.
a voice that pulls you in
Yeah.
and makes you care.
You hit on something important there,
Hmm.
the power of storytelling.
It is.
We saw representatives using personal anecdotes,
They did.
historical references, even pop culture,
Yeah.
to make their arguments more relatable
Right.
and memorable.
Or memorable.
Like that chilling story one representative shared about a constituent
Mm-hmm.
living in an area with a high risk of blackouts.
Right?
It wasn't just about policy.
No.
It was about the potential for real human suffering if the grid failed
It was.
during a harsh winter.
It brought the debate to life,
It did.
reminding us that these aren't just abstract political exercises.
Exactly.
These decisions have consequences that ripple out
They do.
into people's lives.
So how do we, as citizens,
Mhm.
navigate this complex world of policy and governance?
That's the million-dollar question.
It is.
We can start by recognizing that the Congressional Record isn't some impenetrable document.
Yeah,
It's a resource,
it is.
a way to understand what our elected officials are doing and why.
It can feel overwhelming.
It can.
But that's why we do these deep dives,
Right.
to break it down and make it accessible.
Exactly. Think of us as your guides to this world of bills and debates.
Right.
But the real work starts
Yeah.
when you, the listener, take this information
Right.
and run with it.
So what does that look like? Give us the action plan.
Yeah.
How can people get involved?
Okay, first, stay informed.
Okay.
We've given you a taste of what's happening, but now it's your turn to dig deeper.
Mm-hmm.
Read the full congressional record,
Right.
follow news coverage, maybe even reach out to your representatives and let them know what matters to you.
It's easy to feel like one voice doesn't matter, but those calls and emails do get noticed.
They do.
And remember, you're not alone.
Mm-hmm.
Connect with other people who are passionate
Yeah.
about these issues.
Right.
Join organizations, attend town halls, start conversations.
It's all about building that sense of civic engagement.
It is.
In a democracy, our voices have power,
Yes,
but we have to use them.
we do.
And sometimes that means pushing past our comfort zones, asking tough questions, even challenging those in power.
It's not always easy, but that's the beauty of a democracy.
Right.
It requires our active participation.
Exactly.
And that brings me to a final thought.
Okay.
Something we didn't see explicitly debated
Mm-hmm.
in this session of the Congressional Record.
Yeah.
But it's been lurking in the background of all these issues.
Okay.
What is the role of technology in our democracy?
That's a great point.
We discussed the influence of tech billionaires like Elon Musk.
Mm-hmm.
But what about the broader impact of AI, social media, automation?
Right.
How is all of that changing how our government functions?
Yeah.
How we participate in the political process?
It's something we all need to be thinking about
It is.
because technology is evolving so rapidly.
Right.
It's shaping our world, whether we're actively engaging with it or not.
Yeah. So I challenge you, our listeners, to take this deep dive as a starting point and explore that question further.
Yeah.
Do your own research.
Right.
Have conversations and share your insights.
Absolutely.
Because at the end of the day, the future isn't something that just happens to us.
Let's talk.
It's something we create collectively through our choices, our actions, and our willingness to engage with the big questions.
Right.
So keep learning, keep thinking critically, and keep diving deep into the issues that matter most.
Yes.
Because an informed citizenry is the foundation of a strong
It is.
and vibrant democracy.
And remember, this deep dive was just a glimpse
Right.
into a single day in Congress.
Yes.
The story continues to unfold. It does?
And it's up to all of us
Right.
to write the next chapter.